We're going to talk about finding joy and actually using joy as a business strategy. So, hi, Allison. Nice to see you
Nice
today.
to see you too. The wind decided to start blowing. Let me close
Oh,
my
no
window.
worries. That's the beauty of live.
We're not going to
Real
edit that
stuff
out. It's real
happens.
life.
So, I know we just talked. We should have recorded it before we started talking,
That
but
always happens.
so I want to talk about creative hobbies versus joyful businesses, because sometimes we do things because we love it. Authors, we love to write, we're passionate, we're artists. But what separates a creative hobbyist from a joyful business person?
Yeah, well, so I love talking about joy being the best business strategy, and a little context because I think it's important to understand why I feel like I have the authority to talk about this. I worked in the corporate world in human resources for 15 years, and my job was to help create company culture and hire people and train people and things like that. And what I always found is like when I was working in joyful environments where the leadership team got along and people were generally collegial and people were happy, like people were more productive. We had less turnover and things of that nature. So when you think about joy being a great strategy, when we're doing what we love in a way we love doing it with people we love doing it, it's hard to not have success kind of follow. And when you are a business owner, we often have to do all the things. And that includes making money and asking for a sale and pricing our services and marketing and operational things and doing your bookkeeping. And hopefully at some point you get to a place where you are able to hire some of those tasks out. But often in the beginning, we are spending money to make money and time to make our business happen. And in the specific question of like what makes a hobby versus a business, if you are a creative and you're just only doing the thing that you love, for example, writing and publishing a book or creating your art or making your jewelry or whatever you're doing as a creative, and you're just toiling away and you're not thinking like a business owner, um, you're actually going to lose your joy pretty quickly, um, because you're just pouring money, time, and energy into a thing, and then you're not getting much in return. And that's not very joyful. And then you might end up having to go get a job and find other ways to make money that give you less time to do the thing that you love. Is this making sense?
Yeah, and it's a little triggering too.
Oh,
And I because I've been there, I wrote a book on Lyme disease. I had a blog. I sold 5,000-6,000 copies. I was doing coaching, but I didn't know like what's next. I was so burned out, and it wasn't fun anymore, because I was like, oh
mm,
God, now I need to find more. I need to pump out more books or find new leads by doing all the stuff that I just did because I thought I should. And
yeah.
it moved the needle so slowly. And if I think about how much money I was making per hour that I was working, it was just, I wasn't going to make a living at it. It was
Yes.
a,
Like less than minimum wage, right?
yeah. And in the publishing space, we do celebrate wins where like you get a bestseller badge or you sell hundreds of copies, and it's all great. It's like great to get good reviews and know that we're influencing other people. But when it comes to making a living, I think that's what most of us want to do. We want to leave the 9 to 5 grind and really focus. And I'm wondering what you have to say about creative entrepreneurs who are doing a bunch of things in the online space because we think we should, versus what we need to get done. Like, what are the essentials to building a business foundation that is joyful? We have to do some administrative tasks that kind of suck, but Yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I just
Yeah,
know that you're not into shoulds.
I'm
And there's a
totally
lot of
not.
shoulding in the like entrepreneurial space.
There is a lot of shooting, and this it's sort of like a nice entry point for me to give a little bit more of my backstory. So I actually, when I left the human resources field, which by the way was not by choice, I wanted to actually go into the corporate world and start my own executive coaching and consulting business. So I went through a coaching program to get the certification, because in the executive coaching world, they really want you to have a credential that is ICF certified. And so I was like, okay, I'll go get the piece of paper, even though I've been coaching leaders since I entered the HR space. And 3 weeks after my program ended, I was fired from my HR job unexpectedly. It was like a very
No.
kind of strange situation that happened, but it was the greatest blessing. That was back in 2017. And between 2017 and October 2019, when I started Profit Coach, which by the way, Profit is my actual last name, I had actually tried to start my business 4 other times. And I kept looking outside of myself to like other people that were having success in their businesses, and to figure out what I should be doing, to figure out like what are all the marketing things, what's all the social media marketing I should be doing, what are the different ways that you're supposed to like show up online, what are all the operational things that I should have in place. And I found myself getting all lost in this long laundry list of all of the things that I should do in a step by step fashion to walk to success. And when I started Profit Coach, it was a year after I had actually spent time working in a job at Constant Contact in a sales position. And so it's really interesting, because when I took that job, I had never ever worked in sales before. I had tried to start my business 3 times at that point, and I wasn't successful. I wasn't making money. Just like you were saying, I was slogging along, just doing all of the things and not really understanding like or seeing any real payoff on all this work I was putting. I was meeting great people, I was building great relationships, but there was no revenue coming from any of those activities. And so I had this opportunity to work in this sales position at Constant Contact. Really, it was like a place of desperation. I was trying to leave my marriage. I was totally broke. I was unemployed. I didn't know anybody. I was in a new town. And I just like, I met a woman and she was like, oh, like, it sounds like you're trying to like find a job. Like you could come work in sales at this company. And she didn't tell me the company. And I was like, that sounds horrible. I don't want to work in sales. Sales is gross, right? And she's like, oh, I think you'll be great in it. And it's a digital marketing company, and they'll teach you sales. And she basically outlined to me all of these different things that I had shared with her about my background. And she was like, well, I think like you did this, and this before. And like, those are things that you could do in a sales role. I was like, oh, like that makes a lot of sense. So I took this job and they taught me how to sell at Constant Contact, and I fell in love with it. And which is so weird. Like when I hear myself say that now, when I think back to the other times when I was like building those other 3 businesses, and I was like, oh, sales conversation. Oh, I have to ask for the sale. Oh, I have to tell people how much I want to charge. You get all this like weird imposter syndrome coming up, and like, why would people pay me that money? Like there's all kinds of weird stuff that comes up when it comes to making money as a business owner. And that's a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is like helping them kind of get over that. It's like, if I were to ask you, like, do you mind, can we get a little personal here?
Sure.
Okay. So and this isn't planned, by the way, if you're watching this, like, this is totally not planned, but like, what is it that you want to be making money doing through your business?
Helping people and feeling good about it. And
Okay.
I think I talked to you and Kelly about this recently. There's
Yeah.
all these different models to being an online business owner. There's group coaching models. There's done for you services. I've been in done for you, like agency facing marketing for a decade, and I actually have a team that I could pass on the sales stuff to, and I
Mhm.
do. Like my
Yeah.
friend Milos is my sales and my hype man. Like I've recruited him to be my hype translator. You know how Obama has an anger translator?
No, I've not heard
It's
of
just
this.
like it's just a funny skit.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this guy in the background, Obama's talking. He's like, I've hired a anger translator to let you know how passionate I really am. So like I feel spoiled, but also like I've been enabled to put off get leaning into sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah. And so because you don't have joy around it, people can feel that in your
Yeah,
marketing or when you're networking with people. And so this is why joy is the best strategy. Like, what are you most excited about when you think about like the work that you do?
helping people collaborate. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with collaboration,
Yeah, and I
and
know
I
that,
want to
right? Like
bring
we've
it.
had like
Yeah,
conversation and you have a lot of experience with it, right? And
yeah,
so how many years of experience do you have with it? Without going into details, just like collectively.
10.
10.
So
Great.
mostly corporate, but now I'm making it indie, trying to bring,
The
what
label
Disney and
doesn't matter.
McDonald's are
Yeah.
doing
You have
to
experience with
us.
it, right? There's a lot of transferable knowledge that you bring to the table. And outside of those 10 years of experience doing that, how many other like what other kind of experiences do you have under your belt, whether that be educational or travel or like involvement in, volunteering or organizations and like all the different skills that
Yeah.
you have?
Oh, all sorts.
All
That's
sorts.
like that's a lifetime
A
to
lifetime.
yeah.
And so when we kind of come into this place where we start talking about making money in our business, a lot of times I'll see people underpricing themselves because they don't actually realize, like, they'll be like, oh, well, I'm just starting this business. It's like, yeah, but you're bringing all these years of
Mhm.
expertise and knowledge, and then you're bringing a unique lens into it. And so, sure, somebody could go out there and like take a class on how to do this and spend, 20 years trying to gain the knowledge that you have in the 10 years. You're selling that intangible value of all of the collection of all of the things plus your unique lens on it. And so if you think about like you want to help people in their kind of collaborative journeys, right? Like what is on the other side of that for them? Like why would somebody want to get your help? Like what's on the other side of the bridge for them when you help them with the thing that you're helping them with?
For me, when it came to collaboration and seeing it work in my own business and clients' businesses, it's falling in love with marketing. Sort of like the way you finally are like, oh, I love sales. I love the idea of sharing the burden of visibility, turning
Yeah.
competitors into your best promoters,
Yeah.
feeling really good and positive, where it's not just our products and services that are the good thing, and then the marketing is the gross lesser evil to not having food on the table. The marketing is actually one of the positive things you're doing too, because you're supporting other brands, supporting local, or lifting up other people, letting them piggyback off your success and vice versa.
Right. And so like when somebody falls in love with marketing and let's say like there's a successful collaboration that happens, like what is it that person, it sounds like, by falling in love with marketing, then what does that do for them?
It opens up doors it makes the whole thing more sustainable, where you can be happy. You could be happy to keep doing what you're doing, and you realize that with every collaboration, there's consistency. It's about your ability to connect with humans versus cross your fingers and hope that the algorithms are, like you that day. And
Right. Exactly.
and it's about human connections, building rapport. It's really about having a future-proof strategy where other people who are influencers in your space, when you reach out and you're like, can you promote this thing I'm doing? Do you want to be on my summit panel? Do you want to do this thing? They're just going to be like, oh, like for you? Yeah, of course. Because
Exactly.
you're
Yeah.
forming human connections.
Yeah, I like to sort of describe it as like, you know, a joyful business venture versus a creative hobby. Like a creative hobby is like, you're like knocking door to door selling your like crocheted like pot holders, right? Like I don't know why that's a thing I just thought of, but like, it's like at some point you're going to be like, this is dumb. I'm only going to make these and like give them to like my family members gifts because this is too much work. Whereas, yeah, like when you're doing something and there's like this ecosystem, right? Like this ecosystem of like people that are doing complementary things or even same things, because the way that I do something is different than the way another business coach that focuses on sales does things. And you might not resonate with the things that I'm saying, but you might resonate with what this person is saying. I take a lot of soulful approach and I bring spirituality and faith into the things that I do with my clients. So, depending upon your beliefs, like we might pray or we might kind of meditate, right? And so that might not vibe with everybody. So it makes sense for me to surround myself with other people who can validate the things that I'm saying and teaching, because they're like, oh yeah, like that's totally right. When you're approaching sales that way, that makes sense. That's how I teach it too. We're teaching the same thing. Awesome. We're going to like just get validation that what we're doing is a real thing. And also there's this ecosystem. So if I need help or if I have a person I can't take that client on, I can refer them. Right. Or if like they have I hate making content. I'm a live experiential kind of person. I do a lot of live events. And so like, I don't have a whole bunch of content because I'm not a content consumer myself. And so I prefer experiences. Right. And so, but there are some people that are like, I need content. I need to print a workbook and go do the things. And like, if that's you, cool. Let me connect you up with a person that I know does all that kind of stuff. And so this idea that like when we can fall in love with what we're doing and how we're doing it, and then that ends up attracting other people that are doing it in that higher vibrational way. I talk a lot about energy in my work. That then creates this like, and it's not about manifesting because there's a lot of action that you have to take. But like when you're looking around you and kind of feeling like, oh, I'm not in this alone. Oh, let me kind of figure out like what my way is and not just do what I feel like I should be doing. Because if you feel like you should be doing something, it's not sustainable. You're going to be like, this sucks. I hate it. I'm not doing it anymore. But apparently that's the way I should be doing it. So now I'm going to just be a loser, not succeed. And that's like so not joyful. Like as I'm even saying it, I'm like, man, that's like, it's such a bummer. Like cue Debbie Downer, right? Like the SNL skit, right? Like, wah, wah, wah. Like whatever her name was. Yeah. And so like this idea where if we can find and see the value in what's on the other side of the bridge and talk about and focus on that, and not for you. Like, even when I asked you that question, you sort of were like, well, I think it's blah, 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 blah. And like, it brings me, it's like, it's not about you. It is about you because like you're taking your experience and you're translating it for somebody else. But like, what is the pain that they're trying to solve and what's on the other side of that? And when you're doing things that feel more exciting and joyful and aligned and you want to keep doing it, the money can follow. But you do have to be looking at, you can't just make a lot of money without a time for money exchange by like, we were talking earlier about authors specifically before we hopped on this live about like, just doing a high volume of like selling your $2.99 book and being like, oh, that's going to be awesome. Let me just watch all the statistics and the metrics related to that and get the reviews. And like all of that is fine and good. But when I worked at Constant Contact, we had a ton of people that were either like writing a blog or like trying to like grow their list so that they could sell a lot of books or do a lot of that high volume stuff. And it's like, well, you need to do the math on that. Yeah. So like if a book costs you $2.99, what are you actually getting out of that book? Like how much, like, and I don't know, you probably know those margins better than me. So like, what do you make on a $2.99 sale of a book?
70% commission if you're on Kindle. Or
okay. So give me a dollar number, like not percentages, because math is not my strength. I always use calculators or Excel. I'm
busting out my calculator because I don't know. $2.99. 70%. $2.
Okay, $2. Awesome.
But a lot of authors will make their books free or go to 99 cents for getting that traffic. And
Right.
it's kind of a commodity industry where it's often a race to the bottom with our margins. We don't think about like how can we put ourselves in a category of one. And I love how you were talking about we're all unique. Like I could refer people to my direct competitors because they're not actually, no one's your direct competitor. You have your unique spin, which I love.
Yeah.
It's a great way of looking at it. But for authors, it's tricky if your goal is to sell books and not do anything
money
else.
off of that. Yeah. There's like 30 things that just came into my mind. And I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about this. And I have no idea how long this recording is, but we could probably talk for like 2 hours. But like, there's two things I want to address. So like that $2 margin, you probably, if you're an author, you probably have a website. You probably have an email address. You probably have some kind of hosting, something or other for your digital product. And, like there's all kinds of costs to any time that you're going to sell something, right? You had to register your business name in order to be able to collect money as a business when you're selling books. You're probably going to have to maybe you pay somebody to help you with your taxes. All of those overhead costs, once you look at that $2, let's not even talk about the amount of time you spent to write the book and publish it and edit it and, lay it out, like all those things. Like you paid money, you're paying money for the world to have this book. If you're planning on only making money through the book. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just know that you're making that choice.
Well, you had a lot of great ideas for other ways authors can make money.
Yeah.
Remind me.
I will. Yeah. And then there's another thing I want to talk about we're all unique. So I'm like, I don't want to, I'm literally going to write it on a sticky note. Cause I'm like, I'm going to forget. So put yourself in the shoes of a consumer. If you're an author, you probably have authors that you love to follow. And so when you think about like your favorite author, and we're just going down the path of authors, because I actually was telling you, I don't have a ton of experience directly in that industry. Most of the people that I know that write books, like they're writing a book because they want to use it as a way to grow this other part of their business. But let's just start specifically with like an author who like that's all they want to do is they just want to be an author and they're not trying to be a coach or a consultant or like sell anything else. What is it when you have a favorite author? Like if you had an opportunity to meet that author or spend time with that author or learn from that author, isn't it true that you probably would be like, oh my gosh, like I so want to spend time with that person. You're probably not just like, oh, I can't wait to just like read their next book. You're probably looking for more from them. So get curious about like, what is the more? Like, is it, is it a retreat? Maybe it's just like an online opportunity for a meet and greet, or maybe it's an opportunity to, spend time with them at some sort of like in-person retreat, or maybe if they were going to a summit of some sort with a bunch of other authors or other people that are experts in that subject matter area that they write books about, right? Like you can really open your mind about like, how are there other ways for you to A, build your audience and get exposure, B, continue deepening the relationship with these people who are your fans. Like they bought your thing and they want to come to your stuff, and they like, don't just give them a book. It's like, is that all you want to do? Is like, you just want to write a book? Like often if you dig deeper into like the, why are you writing the book? It's usually something bigger. You want to help people. You want to inspire them. You want to share your story. You want to reveal injustices to help change systems. It's like, well, cool. Like you don't just put words on paper. And this sounds a little condescending and it's not meaning to be, but I'm trying to like rile you up a little bit, right? And get you to be like, yeah, like, oh my gosh, yeah, like Like when you can kind of look at it and be like, wow, like, am I actually serving the people in the way that I said I wanted to serve them? Am I doing the why? Am I really doing the why service? And if you can't say absolutely yes to that, then you might want to go back and look at like, where are the, because the truth is making money allows you to go and serve your why. And if you're not making money, like, how are you going to, making money is this beautiful thing. And there's all kinds of like weird money stories, whether you grew up in poverty or you grew up with like really rich family. Money stories get in business owners' way. And so it's so important. That's actually one of the first investments I made in 2020 after I had started my business, is I hired a money coach, because I knew that I had like family stuff, right? Like related to money stories and my own stuff. Just, we all stuff. It doesn't even matter
Yeah.
what my stuff is. It's like we all have stuff. And I knew if I was going to be a business coach, I had to invest in working on the money stuff so that I could then heal that stuff for myself and gain some tools and insights on like how I could do that work with my clients. And so money is a good thing. And don't be afraid of making it, and charge money. I actually often tell my clients, like, when they're like, well, so and so is charging this, and so is charging that, and so is charging that. It's like, first off, like, how do you know that the people that you're looking to serve who are going to resonate with you and your book even know who these other people are? Like, it sort of flies in the face of like traditional wisdom. And I like to say I do business in a soulful way, not in a traditional way. I actually say, like, don't worry about market researching what prices are. Oh, that makes people like kind of, oh, really? Like, I shouldn't worry about what they're charging? No, because think about like how much a paperclip at Tiffany's costs, right?
Yeah.
Or you could go down to Staples and buy a box of 1,000 of them, and like you'd have to buy like pallets and pallets of the Staples paper clips to be able to like get one paper clip from Tiffany's, right? Tiffany's isn't doing market research. They're not
Paperclip.
like, right. I mean, like, it's such a silly example, but
No,
in the
it's perfect.
consulting and the coaching world, we are so enmeshed and surrounded by other people that are doing similar things to us, because we went through a certification or a training, or we're like, let me go hang out with other author coaches, or let me go hang out with other publishers. So we're like in
Mhm.
this circle of sameness. And so we're worried about what our neighbor's doing. But like, if you go out in your neighborhood, has anybody ever heard of what you do? Probably not. They're not researching it, right? And so we get in this like weird bubble, and we think
Yeah.
that everybody else is in our bubble. And the truth is like, oh, this is such a perfect segue into the thing that I was like, I'm going to put a pin in this and not forget to tell this story. But like, we think that everybody knows what everybody does, and that everybody has the same like lens of knowledge that we have. But there's a bunch of people that don't have any idea what a coach does, or how somebody becomes an author, or how you knit, crochet pot holders. Some people are like, oh my gosh, like, wow, crocheting seems so hard, like, that's amazing, you made this little 4x4 square of this cloth, right? And it's like, you're judging it because your pearl stitch isn't like what the best pearl stitcher is that like you look up to. It's like you're looking up to them, but the other
You
people are
crochet, don't you?
what's that? No, I don't. I just kind of
Okay.
like pretend I know knowledge of things. I have like a lot of weird knowledge, but like, so when I was working at Constant Contact, I mean, you know what Constant Contact is, and I suspect that a lot of your authors do. But if you are watching this, you don't know what Constant Contact is. It is one of the very first email marketing companies that was out there. They've been around for more than 20 years. They are a global business. They're a billion-dollar global business. Their MailChimp is one of their competitors, Aweber, ActiveCampaign. Like, they have these tools to help you with growing your list and doing email automation. They don't only do email marketing. It's actually more of a digital marketing company now. And they have like a platform, but they also have some agency services and things like that. I had heard of Constant Contact years and years and years ago. And when I started working there, again, this is a billion-dollar global company that's been around for more than 20 years. We would get people that signed up for our free trial. And then my job was to like call the person that signed up for the free trial to find out a little more about why they signed up for it, what their goals were, and really to make sure, like, is this tool something that will fit for them, or are they trying to do something that they can't do with this platform? And I would get on the phone with them and they'd be like, I don't even know what this is. I never heard of it. Like, what's Constant Contact? And again, like, they were business owners. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, you're a business owner. Like, you must know what Constant Contact is. And there's so many people that were like, I don't know what Constant Contact is. And it's like, wow, $1 billion global company who's been around for more than 20 years ago, whose business is digital marketing.
Yeah.
Doesn't know, like, people don't know who they are. Also, another thing that I took away from my time at Constant Contact is this is a digital marketing company and they're selling digital marketing tools. And they have a sales organization of human beings that pick up the phone and call people to talk to them about the digital marketing tools that we're selling. We're not just trying to close sales by like, oh, I hope they all click on the things.
Yeah. You're
Right?
forming human connections.
We're closing. Now, mind you, there are sales that just happen through the funnel, but the sales and the relationships with the customers that last longer tend to be when they build some kind of human connection with the salesperson and with the company. And they're not just trying to do it behind the screen of the computer. Because when I think about myself, again, as a consumer, if I'm signing up for like a technology tool, we'll just use that as an example. If I can't talk to a human being, I am less likely to stay with your service or even sign up for your service, because I don't want to go through your FAQs. I don't want to chat with a bot. I would like a human being. I don't want an email. I would like to get on the phone. If I have to sit on hold, fine. I don't mind sitting on hold. If I know I'm going to talk to a human being, and then we can have dialogue so I can answer my questions in an actual conversational format and not have to wait for the little, dots to finish filling in and answering my question. And then I have to ask 5 more questions. And it's so annoying. Like think about yourself. Like, do you like
Yeah.
to just do everything digitally, or do you like want to have a connection?
Yeah.
Like,
That's why I don't use WordPress for my personal brands. Unless you have a developer on staff, like I'll pay a little extra so I can get that customer support, not panic.
exactly.
Like, oh God, how do I
Yeah.
code?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, when you think about why are you doing what you're doing, it's probably somehow tied into wanting to help. When we think about helping, connection is a thread there. I say that there are 5 C's to soulful success. Connection, clarity is the first one. Connection is the second one. Courage. Nope, hold on. Clarity, confidence, connection, courage, and cash. And yeah, and those 5 things are often what, like, that's like what we're trying to give to our audience, whether you're an author or a consultant or a coach, doesn't matter. We're probably trying to help people get clarity or feel more confident or feel more connected or gain courage. And as a business owner, the business side of it is the last C, which is cash. Because if you're not making cash from any of it, it's a hobby. And and people get real weird once you start kind of putting that out there, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do. Great, cool, call me. Like, come into my community. Like, I run free events because my goal is actually connection. Like, that is the top of my funnel. And I don't have a bunch of, like, go through these things and get all these lead magnets. Like, my lead magnet is like, come to my events because I want to know you. I want to connect with you. I want to bring other, like, great contributors into my audience, and I want their audience to know me, and like, find those humans and connect with them. And if you're like, I also don't know how to make money, like, maybe it's not me, but it's like, don't just go download some other new program, because, like, that is passive, right? Like, whenever we're thinking about, like, oh, I'm doing stuff in my business, it's like, are you actually making connections and having conversations and asking for sales? Or are you just, like, hiding behind your computer, writing
Yeah.
the content, scheduling the posts, worrying about the content calendar, building all the back end of all the things? Like, where is the
Obsessing over
connection?
follow count.
Yeah, like, where is the connection? Like,
You
does the
know what?
person that really needs you, do they care what your count is? No.
You know what's kind of funny? When I think about lead magnets and like what what a no-brainer offer is to bring someone in your community, I think what is something where it's done with you or done for you, what's something where it's kind of exclusive, there's some time urgency, and you get instant results. And for authors, the tricky thing is our lead magnets are generally things that are DIY. You have to read it. It takes a long time because it's a book. And, you know, we have freebies that you can grab at any point. So there's no urgency. It takes a long time to write. But when you have an event as your lead magnet, it's time limited. You have to be there. It
Mhm.
builds relationships.
Yeah.
It's so easy to put
Yeah.
together. You just have to show up and be present for people.
Totally.
And I think that's an awesome lead magnet. Build connections with people.
It totally is true. And, you and I are taking part in this like digital bundle thing. And that's actually how we met, is through the Boost Your Business bundle event that Lynn put on. And, it's really interesting because I don't normally participate in things like that because I am such a connection oriented person. And I probably a couple years ago decided like I was going to stop opting into all the things because it just sits in my inbox. Like if people looked at my inbox, they'd be like, "Oh, wow, that's a problem." And it's like, "Oh, well, I don't know if it's a problem or not. It's just like I just don't let it bother me, and just I know that I get to the things that matter, and then I just don't delete the other things for some reason." But like the reason I came into Lynn's is because like she actually had a phone call with me.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't just like, "Oh, fill this thing out," right? Like she really wanted to connect with me, and I was connected with her through one of my mentors, Franklin Taggart. And
No way. Franklin
yeah,
is your. Oh, that's awesome. I love
yeah.
Franklin.
Oh, I love Franklin too. Yeah, like he lives here in Fort Collins. Yeah, I actually am having coffee with him tomorrow. We have like monthly
Oh,
2-hour coffee chats. Yeah, like he's like a
cute. Say hi
mentor
for
and like
me.
a friend. And yeah, so like Franklin introduced me to Lynn, and that's how I got into the event, right? Connection, right?
I introduced Franklin to Lynn.
Amazing. Look at that. See, connection, just playing out just like that. How do you know Franklin?
From K.I.S.S Mixers.
Okay.
Kat Stanek.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, it's like the connection is what keeps us connected, right? I have a sticky note right here that says connection is a currency.
Awesome.
Connection is a currency. So like yes, the numbers matter only if you do something with them.
Yeah.
Right? Getting subscribers to your list, that's awesome. And this was one of the sales job at Constant Contact was really fun because the way I approached it was my sales calls were really long because that's just how I roll. Like I have ADHD and I love to like get in the things and like I get creative. I'm not there to just like sell a $10 a month product, right? But like I really focus on like helping people come up with their strategy. So they would be like, I'm looking for a tool so that I can do this thing with this lead magnet and send out an email. It's like, awesome. So ultimately, what is your goal? And then they'd be like, well, I want to grow the list. No, but what's your goal with that? Like, why do you want to grow the goal? Right. It's like getting to the why. It's like you got to ask like 20 questions to get to the why. And when I worked in HR, that was totally my job. So it's like I'm trained in that. So like getting to the why, and it's like, oh, like, I really actually like, I want to be making money in this thing. And sometimes I would have to like point blank ask that question, like, are you trying to make money? And they'd be like, oh yeah. It's like, well, cool. Like, what do you want your call to action to be? Like, is it just download this thing, see you later, thanks for your email address? Like, what are you doing with it? Like, yeah, I think events are amazing. And I don't always do these like digital things, but Lynn has a lot of live interactive things. And so you're really getting to meet people. And like, I've met you and apparently you're connected to Franklin. And Kelly like lives an hour from me. I had coffee with her last Friday, right? It's like Lynn is doing the smart thing where it's like, yeah, like come opt into this thing. Like that's the teaser. But then it's like, and also all this connection. And I think people sometimes when they think about running events are like, oh, it's big and scary. It's like, actually, you have everything at your fingertips. Do you have a mouse? Do you have a keyboard? Do you have a video? Cool. Open a Zoom account, I mean, you could literally run your summit through Zoom if you didn't want it to be complicated, like set up an
Yeah.
Eventbrite and connect it up with Zoom and like make a registration page. You don't even worry about charging for it to start. And that's really what the Soulful Entrepreneur Summit community is all about. I mentioned the events that I do in my community, those stemmed from I ran a big 5-day virtual summit in 2020 in January. And I leveraged, you would have loved it, right? It was all about collaborating. We ended up having like 40 speakers and panelists. It was all live, partly because I'm not a content person. So, like, all the work behind the scenes of like taking all the digital assets and then having to, yeah, like eventually we'll get there. But like what Lim did is like so amazing. So, like, if you are opted into this Boost Your Business bundle thing, it's a lot of work and she crushed it. But like my thing was like, I just want to create connection and the magic is in the moment. So, sure, like if you want to go back and watch the recordings, that's fine. But you're not going to get to go into the breakout room. So, there's like a bunch of stuff that's not going to be
Yeah,
recorded.
that's the best part.
Yeah, like the breakout rooms are magical. We do live activities where it's like, we're going to do this thing. And then you get to ask questions and like interact and ask the expert and share with each other and make those connections and get aha moments and watch people be coached live. And it was so magical. We had 220 registrants at that first year event because we had all of these people who wanted to be a part of this magical, soulful entrepreneur concept, and they were like, this is amazing. And like we had music and we had breaks and we had like, meditative stuff during the thing. And it was so fun. And people loved it. And there were people that were like, next year I want to come to all 5 days, right? Like a
Yeah.
5-day virtual thing. People were like, I want to come all 5 days. And then we were like, we're going to do it again. So we ran that same event. We really didn't do anything different. We got better at it. From an organization perspective, but we mostly kept it the same. We didn't add layers of complexity. We didn't do like affiliate sales, partly because one of my mottos with like joy being the best business strategy is I like to follow what's called the K.I.S.S method, which is keep it soulfully simple. So like the more simple that you can keep it, the less stressful and overwhelmed it becomes, right? And the less costly, because once you start adding complexities, you either need more technology to streamline and automate it, or you need humans to like keep track of all the things. And so like, how can you keep things as simple as possible? Like perfection is a thing that gets in our way and it stops us from starting. Like done is better than perfect, and nobody's going to care about those little tiny details. And by the way, like guilty as charged, right? Like, of course I'm on Canva perfecting the
Yeah.
graphics and centering the things and spending way too much time, but I'm
Uh,
conscious that I'm spending too much time and I
yeah.
will set timers and be like, I'm only going to work on this much time and then it's done. Because nobody is looking at it the way that I'm looking at it. Because what they're gonna join for is the energy they can feel behind it. So if I'm like dreading all the things that I'm doing and all the collateral that has to go into putting this event on, if I'm dreading it, people will feel that. And like it's intangible. And that's like I have an assessment tool in the work that I'm trained in as a coach that like helps you measure your energy in stress times and in regular times. And so when you can see tangibly on paper what your stress response typically looks like, it makes it easier to notice it and then know what to do with it. And so it's not all about like all the little nitty gritty details. It is about the energy because people can feel that, right? Like I can see the smile on your face. Like you can feel resonance with that, right?
Mhm.
And if I was sitting here like, yeah, I had to put this event on and it's so much work. If I showed you the project plan for it, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like that's so much work. But I'm working with a project manager that's helping me actually streamline and document everything from the summit because now I've done it 2 years in a row and I've noticed some inefficiencies and we're going to be bringing in some different team members to help, but that stuff needs to be documented. And that's not my strength. And also I don't like to do that kind of stuff by myself. So I have this like awesome project manager who like wants to be a part of this event. So I'm bringing her in and she's going to probably teach a session about project management for projects in your business because that's her jam. And, like I'm going to give her exposure. And in exchange for that, she's helping me get all this stuff on paper. And she was like, there are so many steps to this. And it's like pretty cool. Like, it's not complicated, but like there are a lot of steps and you're so organized, but I can feel your joy for it. And it's like, yeah, like I love this event. It takes a lot of time and energy, but I freaking love it. And we ran it in 2022 and we had like 298 people registered for it, right? And they weren't all there, but I didn't focus on that because I was
Yeah.
so stoked for the people that were there, because
Yeah.
people that were there were like, this was amazing. And, you know, it's really interesting. Like the event last year for our all access passes, we sold those tickets for $97. And people like, I had the audience set the price for this coming year. And like they were like, we would pay $500 for this ticket. And I was like, I sold that for $97. And we
Wow.
gave a lot of them away. Because for me, I'm just like, it's not about making money. It's about like bringing the people together. But I've had enough social proof now where it's like, I'm going to make money off of this event this year because the people have told me that they want to give money for it because they see the quality of it. And I mean, like relationships and businesses were changed and created out of this event. And I know that that's valuable to people. And so sometimes you have to sort of know, like, am I putting this time and effort in because I know that I know I'm choosing to make money a little bit later on, like delaying your payoff. That was an intentional thing for the first 2 years that we did that big event. And it was about growing the audience. But I knew at some point, and year 3 that's what it's going to be. I'm so excited because I'm going to be starting to sell sponsorships for this year's event. And it's like the audience is now telling me that like, we want you to make money on this event. It's like, oh my gosh, like that's exciting, right? And that always was the intention, but I didn't start there. Does that make sense? I don't know if any of that was kind of rambly, but it's like, it's like if you have to have, as a soulful and joyful business owner, the vision in your mind has to be about making money. Like we didn't make money selling tickets to the summit. The money was made after the summit. But this year it's like, now the money will be made through the summit because that's what they said we should do. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
listen to your audience, right? And think about yourself as a consumer, right? I mean, like knowing what was created and the breakthroughs that people had at this event. Like if I would know that like an event was going to be that way, like very experiential and a lot of time and space for connecting and digesting, and not like pick 20 tracks. It's like, no, there's one track. You don't have to pick where you want to be. It's one schedule. Be there or don't be there. You don't have to like decide which one you're going to come to. It's like,
Keep it simple.
keep it soulfully simple. That's right. The KISS method. It's where it's at.
Awesome. Franklin actually had a recent video on launching anxiety. And one of the conclusions he came to was, it doesn't matter. Like if there's 200 people who opt in, we'll see what happens. But the people who are like, oh my God, that was so helpful. You changed my life. That makes it worth it. If there's some people who are like, yes,
Exactly.
focus on those people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had times where, and this was true ever since I started my business. So when I started my business, because I'm still a partner with Constant Contact. So like I'm a reseller, so I can help clients like start their account and get it set up in the back end. And I am also a consultant. So I like charge for my own services to help them with their email strategy. And so when I started Profit Coach, I immediately knew that I wanted to also contribute to my small business community here in Northern Colorado. And I became an instructor with the Small Business Development Center here in Larimer County. So I teach workshops on email marketing and sometimes on sales and things of that nature. And it would be really interesting. They would put these workshops together and they would market them and list them on their website. And then they would contact me and they were like, oh, like we only got one person to sign up. So we're going to refund them their money and we're just going to cancel this workshop. And I would be like, well, I'm still going to do it. Like, you're welcome to refund the money to them. But like, can I have their email address? I'm going to email them and see if they still want to do it at this time or if there's another time that would be convenient for them. And so even if only one person shows up, I would just connect with them and serve the heck out of them and basically be like, here, you get a personal session. And I can't tell you how many times that those people turned into clients because they were
Yeah.
delighted and they were like, wow, like this was amazing. This, like, I paid $20. I got my $20 back. And then I got this like free, amazing value thing. Cause I wasn't in my head like, oh, nobody showed up. Like, no one wants my stuff. Like, I'm a loser. It's like, no, like you're a rock star. Like, crush it and like pour all the value on this human and then ask for the sale at the end. But you have to have clarity on what your offer is. Like, what is the next step? And so if you are an author and you want to do a bunch of freebies and opt-ins, like, what is the next step? And what's your follow-up to like guide them to take the next step? Like, call them or send them a personal email. You know, like, don't just rely on your email automation. Like, if you see that, like, 50 people opened the email and 3 people clicked on the link, send those 3 people a personalized email directly from your email account, not out of your mass email funnel system, because people know the
It's a good
difference.
idea. Yeah.
People know the difference. By the way, I'm talking to myself, like, we have to wear all the hats. And so I know that I could be doing those things to like close more sales and follow up with those people that are highly engaged. What are you doing with the people that are engaging with you?
Yeah.
Right? Send them a Facebook message, connect with them on LinkedIn. Hey, right? I mean, like, how would you react if somebody did that to you?
Yeah.
You would be like, wow, I'm delighted. Wow,
Yeah.
I feel special.
Yeah,
Right? And
totally.
it's
That's
like,
a great
that
idea.
doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
Get out from behind your computer and put yourself out there because it's what you are meant to be doing. Oh, I'm like, I feel like I'm on a soapbox. I'm like,
I'm like, what should I call this? And you just said get out from behind your computer. Maybe that, but this talk just went everywhere and there's so much here.
yeah,
Like,
it's all over the place, but really it comes to one thing. Find your joy, enjoy how you're doing it, but get out there and do it. Because like you have something special inside of you, and stop doubting all like the things that are saying, because your brain is disconnected from your heart and soul because there's all this conditioning and there's all these people trying to sell you on all these things. Like when my clients sign up with me, they're like, okay, like what's the steps? What are we going to be doing in all of the different sessions? And I'm like, I don't know, because you're not a cookie cutter. You're a human. So you're going to have different things that show up for you that you need help with. And I mean, are there some standard things that we do? Yes. And like, do we get to all the things? Yes, but there is not a prescription. That's actually why I stopped running a group program, because I had a hybrid group and one-on-one sales coaching program, and I helped people craft their offer and set their prices. We did sales training, we crafted their sales script, and then we crafted their messaging, and then we would come in and practice it. And it took some people longer to get there than others. And I felt like I was just forcing people through a curriculum. And I hated that.
yeah.
Because you have to do things when you're ready. So like maybe social media is important to you, but maybe that's not what you need to be focusing on right now. If it doesn't bring you joy, if it's stressing you out, you might want to put it on a shelf and walk away from it and figure out like, what's the thing that you love to do? Do you love to teach? Cool. How can you be getting out there and teaching and use that as your marketing strategy? For me, that is what my marketing strategy was. I loved doing the things that we're doing and teaching and educating people. And I guess that some inspiration in here too, right? But it's like, I had so many different opportunities, and I went out and found those, right? Like I just was like telling everybody like, oh, like not telling them, but like, because I learned sales conversations, I basically understand, and I teach this to my clients, like how to sort of like turn any conversation into like having the components of what you need for a conversation to turn into a sales conversation organically. Like it's not slimy or pushy at all. It's like you're just listening. And then there's ways that then you go through that conversation process to articulate like, hey, it sounds like you have this problem and like you could use help with these things. Like, oh, hey, like, oh, you teach on these things, you have a community on these things, or oh, like you have a run an organization and maybe you're writing a book and like what you write your book on is like something an organization needs help with. Like, oh, cool. Like I'd love to come in and give a talk about this topic, and like,
Yeah.
whether you do it for free or you're getting paid for it, doesn't matter. It's like, what is your intention? Like there is something about like, I want you to make money, but I also want you to be detached from the outcome of how you're making money, when you're making the money, where you're making the money. Cause like when you detach from it, you're actually showing up from this very faithful place and you're trusting and you're acting on like your intuition, like I say, like joy is the destination, your values are the coordinate points, and your intuition is the GPS. I think that's like a good place to end, probably, because I could keep talking for hours and hours. But like, find what brings you joy, and that is your sales and marketing strategy. But you got to be the one that's out there doing it.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop recording, and then we'll probably stick around forever, anyways. But thank you, Alison. I learned a lot. I have a lot to think about, and
awesome.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.